Hello, this is Robert Faust, and just some ideas. I've been watching different YouTube presentations for quite a while, different reactions to the so-called drone flap in New Jersey and New York. It's not just there now that today they're talking about, uh, Philadelphia, elsewhere, of course. Um, So what's interesting about this? It's, I'm going to go a little deeper in this. Now, I'm not trying to say I know what's happening. I'm theorizing. It's a hypothesis based on known facts and maybe conjecture based on looking at a much bigger picture and also including history. Okay. So I'm not trying to, be dogmatic. So, because I'm a citizen of the world and I'm my own soldier, basically, and I take a look at things and try to figure stuff out. Now, I've been on the path of truth for at least 65 years, and it's been it's difficult. You learn that what you say, even if it's the truth, can get you in more trouble than a lot of things you do. Uh, and the closer you get to the truth, the more pushback you're going to get, and basically, um, yeah, this is what I mean about this, a deeper situation that is hard for me to comprehend, and a lot of other people, and that's why they're just you know putting our heads together and comparing notes and ideas. It's not that you have to believe me. I'm old enough to know that since there's something like 3,500 different religions in the world, and sects and branches, so yeah, that's a big number. All right, and they all think they're right. They're all right, and everybody else is wrong. So I mean that's one of the features of most religions that we're exposed to. That is, the mainstream uh, religions that are made, the Judeo-Christian heritage, right? Uh, so everybody thinks they're right. So how can you deal with that? And boy, and they are vehement. I mean, these people get killed over this. I mean, oh my God, what's if you don't believe my way, we're going to annihilate your whole culture and commit genocide. It's just, so yeah, I mean, come on. I wish people would just wake up to history and know that we have not evolved mentally any much since the Stone Age, really. And you still have the same ratio of, a few geniuses out there that the ones you've heard of, remember, Plato, Socrates, Archimedes, oh, yeah, and a whole bunch of others. I could go through the list. And then you have the dictator, torturer, emperor, and then you have everything in between. So, and that ratio doesn't change. These things don't change. The technology, the tools do, the technology, the material, and as knowledge builds, people build, science builds on other people's work. You might criticize their work now. Oh, that was just, they didn't do the statistics right, and that step wasn't like, so Sure, yeah. By today's standards, it would be discredited, but that's how it starts. I mean, would you want to fly around in like the Wright's Flyer, you know, the first airplane? It actually killed one of the brothers, Orville, I believe. But so the first stuff, the innovation is those people are like the pioneers, you know. They're the ones with the arrows in their back, right? And basically, this is part of the whole big picture of different religions and ideas that where you're right and everybody is wrong. Okay, that's a big problem. You know, how did they reach that conclusion? Well, most cases they're born into it, and they're just indoctrinated since youth, since they're a baby, since they're a toddler, you know, and so it's a belief system that's been passed on for generations. Must be true. See, everybody's doing it. Must be true. And of course, there's people are going to say, well, it is true because it's written in the book, the sacred book. All right. Yeah. Whose sacred book? No. How do we know? How do we know that? But in any event, there's a lot of sacred books, and there's a lot of people that think they're right, and they should probably kill people that aren't. Okay, so we're starting with that. that's what you're dealing with. Okay, so so when we're talking about UFOs, man, what an old story. You know, I remember taking Project Blue Book out of the library back when I was like, I don't know, 10 years old or 12 years old. I don't remember how old. Young. And it was before, way before computers and the internet. And we had to go to the library. You know, and you look through magazines there and books. And so anything I could find on UFOs, because I'd been an experiencer myself. And it's something I never admitted because, yeah, right. It's not something, again, it's not part of that religious or a story, what I call the story, like a civilization, a culture's story. Okay, if you step outside of the story, you're, you're an outlander, you're a heretic. And yes, I did have a relative who was accused of witchcraft and suffered horrible consequences. So it happened within my own family. Of course, this was back 7 or 8 generations back in witchcraft days. And that's the time of the Renaissance, where you had this big reaction to, well, you had one faction that questioned the main authority of the world at that time, or that part of the world, which was the Catholic Church. They had armies, they had prisons, they would torture you in horrible ways. And so when that was challenged, it created a horrible situation where it resulted in like the 100 Years' War and all these conflicts in Europe between the forces of Rome and Charlemagne even versus the Protestant Reformation and Scandinavian powers. And so this is a big part of history. And this is this religious warfare, you know, the Crusades. Oh, those people are wrong, we got to kill them, plus we want to take over. And, you know, it's just one thing after another. And so you have to understand the context here. Now we're up to modern times, so-called. It's always modern times. People think it's the modern. And we have a new election, and you have the country divided. They, and that's a strategy. I don't know whether it's deliberate or it just comes out that way, but divide and conquer, certainly not a new idea. And you have different socioeconomic. See, normally we would have these tribes, and regions, like in Germany. It wasn't even Germany until very, very late in the 19th century. It was different kingdoms, fiefdoms, under the Holy Roman Empire. And, you had it wasn't Germany, it was Bavaria, Prussia, Hesse, Saxony, right? And they were all different kind of kingdoms, usually run by a duke or count or somebody, and then you have the peasants, and that whole situation, and then basically they draw from the peasant class, the farmers, for their soldiers and for their wars. So these things don't change that much. And so now we're talking about UFOs, which again is not new. I mean, they had these same kind of swarms, or whatever they're calling them, in that same time during the Renaissance. And there's paintings. One of them is, it looks like what you're seeing over New Jersey, all these white lights in the sky, dots, and it's Basel, Switzerland. And then the other one is Nuremberg, where it shows several different types, and it looks like they're in conflict. But the one over Basel, I'm going to try to find that, put that one up. But so it's just a painting of a city scene, Basel, Switzerland, and a lot of things happen in Basel, Switzerland, by the way, and that's a whole other story. But I've been there too. It's a great town. They definitely know my name there, because every year they reenact the classic opera Faust, one of my ancestors. So they were seen over that area, and somebody did a painting to commemorate it. So that's evidence, okay? Or it's probably people would object to that. That's not evidence. Somebody made that up. It's CG. No, it's a guy with a paintbrush at 15 something. So this has been seen before in these times of change, where you get this polarization and you get conflict. You get really bad conflict. And those same times is also a time of plague. But a lot of times in warfare, times of war, that plague is the result. It's not this lack of sanitation, all kinds of things, nutrition, this whole range of ecological things. And things, I'm an agroecologist, and this is part of it, see. And then you have food production, because the kids went off to war, and then people were burning their fields, and one thing after another. It all started over religion. Most of these things were going pretty good. People were getting by, doing their thing, and then have these insane arguments over belief systems, and really pretty much the same belief system. There's details that are different. Yeah, a lot. Okay, but anyway, millions of people were killed. Whole civilizations were destroyed. Genocide was committed. I just want to emphasize that because that's what we're dealing with. Now I'm telling you, or people are looking at this UFO thing, and now even some religions like Catholic are saying, well, yeah, God, there's no limit on God's creation. We can't say that it's limited. He can create, and and if they're aliens, they're still, they're people under God, and I would give them communion. See? So, so they know, and they're okay. But the rest of the public has been so indoctrinated, just incredibly indoctrinated, to where it becomes a joke. Tinfoil hat, UFO, that's crazy, just like Bigfoot and just like a lot of things, But at the same time, they believe in the Tooth Fairy and Santa Claus and other things I won't go into because it might insult some people. And I'm really, I think the situation is like I said in my last video. They're trying to get our attention, which they have. They're trying to say, look, we talked to your people and we wanted them to, do disclosure, and they're not doing it. So we're doing it. We're going to demonstrate. We're going to say we're here, and for what reason? Because they know we're about ready. The next war we have is the war after that is going to be fought with sticks and stones. I mean, that's a situation that they don't really want to have happen. And you see, but people don't want to believe that there's some other beings, but there is. I mean, there's been reports and all kinds of information on this for 70 years. And it's out there if you want to look. I mean, most of it's covered up, but a lot of it got out. Basically enough to piece together what happened. And but it doesn't matter because people have a built-in what they call denial mechanism. So people can deny anything. I mean, it's just appalling, basically. And like what's happening now with the government, is I won't even go there because there's a lot of YouTubes on that talk about the political situation. So I'm concerned with the ecological and economical situation. And I'm not necessarily, fond of either party, necessarily. I'm not a member of either one. So I'm not real happy with the situation in general. It's like, oh, well, this side can fix it. No, this side can fix it. No, neither side is fixing it. Oh, my God. So when you start talking UFOs, you're going to definitely expose yourself to ridicule and derision, even though you've seen it with your own eyes in many cases. And people, a lot of people, are experiencers, and they don't want to talk about it because they don't think people will believe them. That's why I never talked about it. Why talk about it? And people aren't going to believe you. Why tell the story? Sometimes they're so just out there that, so outside of anybody's experience, they just can't believe it, because they're brought up on fairy tales and fantasies. And what do you tell kids? Like fairy tales, right? Or stories and crazy shit. Yeah, you lie to them, right? So my point is that we live in a lie culture where kind of anything goes. I can guarantee you, all cultures in history weren't like this. and many of the cultures within the U.S. are not like this. But it seems like it's just all manipulation and all lies all the time on everything. Rule of thumb, just believe the opposite, most of it. Everything's manipulated for special interests. And people are easy to manipulate. And they have these denial mechanisms, like I say. So they'll deny obvious truth. Even if they're exposed to the evidence, irrefutable evidence, they will still, many people will still deny that truth. Because they're conditioned and brainwashed, and their ego also can't let go of it because that may make them wrong. And we don't like to be wrong. I don't like to be wrong, so that's why I'm basically a truth seeker. And that's what I'm looking for. And that's what a scientist should be, and a doctor, a healer. We need to find what works, okay, for one thing. It is more important than how it works, but we want to know it's got to be the truth. We can't fool around with lies, and when people's lives are at stake, and the world's survival and ecosystem are at stake, future and fairly recently, we know we've shortened potential for life on Earth, by just soil depletion alone. And that's just the beginning, because that spirals into desertification and just a whole range of human misery is behind that. And we're seeing that happen in Central America, which is why we're getting so many immigrants, really climate refugees. See, again, that hasn't been accepted yet. They're just bad people that are coming here to make money, and they're just poisoning our blood. I'm quoting now. I don't believe that. But no, they're climate refugees trying to get out of a terrible situation. I mean, if you ever, and most people haven't had to deal with a drought and be a farmer and deal with drought. Well, I have. So I'm not talking from, just because I heard something. But it puts you under terrific stress. And so those people have big families, and what are they going to do? They just get to the end of their rope. There's no rain, the crop failed again. There's no Social Security or food stamps or anything. You don't have any option. You just sit there and watch your family die. Of course they're going to try to come to the U.S. and get a job picking tomatoes or whatever they can. And you can't blame them. There are people that are victims of our own effect on the climate, the global warming effect, and a whole range of other things that we brought them, diseases, even weeds and plant diseases. I mean, it doesn't have to be human diseases. Plant diseases will kill you too by starvation. So that's the kind of issues that I'm concerned about, and we should all be concerned about. It's not a religion. It's not like, do you believe that somehow God will intervene and make it rain? And well, that's what, there's certain groups of people that believe that, and they use human sacrifices to placate the God so that it would rain, plus throwing them in a cenote. Okay, so yeah. But that's not how we see it. It's about physics, and it's about how the Earth actually works. Hurricanes are caused by heating over in the equatorial regions, and it creates a low pressure area, and it spins off across the ocean, and you got a hurricane. Now, the people that inhabited the Caribbean, the Caribs and Arawaks, Tanio people. These were civilizations that were there for thousands and thousands of years, and essentially eliminated by Columbus. Um, to them, it was Huracan, the god that created hurricanes. It was Huracan. He was the big god. He was the big overall god, and you had to placate him and worship him and make sacrifices to him. So every civilization clings to that kind of thinking. It's one god or another. And we have to do humans. For some reason, they like human sacrifice and human pain. They would actually, yeah. So, and then of course the cannibalism, where you'd get the mana or the energy, the vigor, the spirit of the person that you ate, especially if he was a high-ranking individual. For instance, Captain Cook. They cooked Captain Cook. Hawaiians. Yeah, because he had a lot of mana. He wasn't real smart, but he was a pretty smart guy. But, he made a big mistake there at the end. But, so how can we, what's the point of talking about UFOs? In other words, I don't know how many people are going to agree with me, that these are, I'm not saying they're even from another planet. I'm saying they're using tech we don't have. They're another race of humans, and they may live in bases within the Earth, which sounds insane and crazy. But I mean, that was Admiral Byrd, and he wrote a book. Do you believe him? Okay, an eyewitness account where he went down there. It's a long and interesting story. They talk about it on Earth Files, earthfiles.com. Linda Moulton Howe had a couple interviews talking about Antarctica, and it could be a key to the whole thing. And I have a feeling it is, because we had an expedition down there with a bunch of astronauts and politicians, and it was real hush-hush. So there's something there, and of course if you read Admiral Byrd's account and others, and there's plenty of YouTubes, then you might get the picture, okay? But you probably still won't believe it. Because people can't believe things outside of their realm, their belief system that protects them. They defend too, vigorously. And so to open up to something like this is just like they said that the Carib, I don't know which tribe it was, the Tanio or the Carib, when they saw Columbus's ships approach, they literally couldn't see him. They were literally invisible to them. This is the story. Because it was so far out of their any kind of imagination or experience they ever had to see these, to them, huge ships with these big sails and all that, and these weird people and weird animals they brought with them, like horses and dogs. And it was just beyond their ability to compute this. So that would be, and we're no different. See, that's the point. See, it's not computing. See, it's just not. We've been conditioned that that's just CGI. Of course, the best pictures are done on a Brownian schematic. Back in 1960, McMinnville, Oregon. Okay, so yeah, there's so much evidence that there actually is UFOs. So we know that part. They're there. What are they? Who owns them? Who's flying them? I don't know. There's theories on who's doing that, and there's as many as 9 different races. And they have distinct ships that you can identify there's actually a chart that shows the ships and who's flying them. Believe it or not, I mean, I'm not saying that this is true. I'm saying that I have seen UFOs on multiple occasions. And even when I was quite skeptical and went up to Mount Adams, to East Eddy Ranch, and they kept talking about UFOs and Mount Adams, and I said, okay, well, I'm open. And plus, you know, I like to go camping. And they had a big event, and I went up there. And to make a long story short, yeah, I saw UFOs, and they looked just like these things over in North Jersey. There, I'm telling that story, you know, and people are going to think I'm crazy, but I was there with a couple hundred other people, so yeah, and it was predicted, and there was a flyby, and I'm not going to go into it any more than that. That it looked like, and this was around Mount Adams, as if they were coming out of it. It's a big volcano, so it was like 14,000 feet. But so I saw them, and they look just like this thing. You know, they're just like white orbs. White orbs. They weren't like these other so-called drones, but they're also seeing these white orbs too. Not just these sort of mechanical-looking things with lights blinking, but. And then I've seen these orange fireballs, and many people have around here. You know, it's not uncommon. So we know there's stuff that, you know, that we're not flying. Okay, it's something else. I just had a big sighting the other day down in around the Oregon coast, between Oregon coast and like Newport or Salem and ATC, back and forth with a couple airlines and some FAR 135 flights. And yeah, they're definitely not airplanes. So let's say that part's true. There's things flying around that have exceptional performance, better than anything we got. And that's just reality. They've been seen by all kinds of people, including, you know, the famous sightings by naval FA-18 pilots. And there's more than that. I mean, like I say, in McMinnville, here it was 1950 or 1960, famous, really good, really clear pictures taken with a Brownian Instamatic. It's before computers, before CG, before digital anything, right? And they've been proven to be true. You know, that they weren't doctored or anything like that. And every year here, or in McMinnville area, they have this UFO festival every year to commemorate it. And they have great speakers. I've heard some of the luminaries of the UFO world at this conference. It's quite fun, parades and a whimsical kind of a thing. But the point is, we know that part's probably true. There is UFOs. Where they come from, there's conjecture, you know, and there's people that say they have spoken to these people on these ships and even been taken up in the ships. Lots of them. And they even say, like, where they're from. Just like in the Benny and Barney Hill. They showed a map of the stars to Betty. And she could remember it so well that she drew out the star map. And it showed where their planet was. And for years they were saying, that's bullshit, you know. Then they, with the new telescopes and everything, they mapped it out and it fit perfectly, you know. And this was a woman that didn't know anything about astronomy or planets or anything. But they were taken on this ship, and the guy said, yeah, this is where our planet is. And there it was, you know, and it matches. like Sirius B or something like that. So, yeah, they want us to see him, and they want the truth to come out, and they want to shake up uh, where we're coming from. Reshape the human race, and at least prevent like any more warfare, because they know we're on the edge of nuclear warfare, and they know this. They know that we have unstable leaders in the world that are like on the edge of insanity, and with weapons that have just untold, like destructive power, enough to destroy the earth. And if some of these people live in the sea or in this inner earth story, they're going to be destroyed too, probably, or affected. And then it may have like a domino effect, in the rest of the solar system or universe. So they really can't let that happen. And so they're determined to let that, to deal with it, which is why they've been hanging around nuclear facilities for a long time. This is an old story where they manipulate the computers, turn the weapons systems on and off, and show that they can take control. And they can just sap the energy out of something, so you can't run a vehicle or get something started. Or they even say now they're draining drone batteries. People send drones up and end up draining the battery. Thing just falls. And so what we're talking about here is a phenomenon that is where they've had like 50 or 60 years to brainwash the population, even when there's lots of evidence. And they cover it up, and then even academia, In other words, once there's a story gets established, they're gonna set up the storyline, and then academia defends that storyline. They defend their storyline, and they hold on tight to it. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. It's turned into like a high priest's kind of a thing. University systems. And it's sort of, a tool of, like church, state, academia, military, with a goal in mind. I mean, in other words, it's again, you have the royalty or the elites or the oligarchs, or just the most thuggish and brutal at the top, and then everybody else is terrorized, intimidated, and they're the ones that really provide the wealth in terms of agricultural production and other labors that they're forced to do. So the whole system is threatened by the appearance of UFOs, because for years and years they've been saying, "Oh, there isn't any." No, the Air Force came out with a report of a couple months ago, and they said, "No, there's no UFOs or anything." So then here come thousands of UFOs. Okay, that's really going to shake up a lot of people's perception. See, and then they come up with excuses for what it is. Like, well, it's these guys that are, I don't know, they're playing with drones, and they'll come up with just outrageous excuses for it. Excuses that are more out there than that. They're like alien beings. I mean, even more far out than that. Like Iranian drones launched from an Iranian mothership. That's harder to believe than that they're from Sirius B or the inner Earth. That sounds crazy to me. Okay, so it'll come up with all kinds of excuses, and people will grab those excuses. You know, like, oh, they have their drones because that's what they told us. They told us they're drones. But drones aren't supposed to have, uh, FAA approved anti-collision lights. I'd like to see the STC on that and the serial numbers. I'd like to know what collision light, the FAA approved collision light they're using. What? Yeah, they have lights. FAA approved. Yeah, all airplanes that operate at night need anti-collision lights and also navigation lights. Well, how come they don't have navigation lights? They got one light. They got blinking lights, but not the approved red and green. And it doesn't matter because they want to be seen and they want to see each other because they don't want to crash. They're out there milling around. Yeah, sure they have their lights on, and it's different lights than what you'd see in an aircraft for sure, and absolutely different. And I've certainly had plenty of experience. I like night flying myself because you can see where everybody is easier, and you can see the airport better and the towns, the lights. So yeah, it's a good thing for people to have their lights on at night in an airplane. And so they're flying around out there, and they want us to see them. And they're thinking that that's going to start unraveling the ball of lies that the government, and not just the government, I mean the whole system, has been covering up forever. And it's as simple as that. It's like what happened during the Renaissance and other periods in history. And we could go back, pretty far. But they see a risk, they see a hazard, and they're trying to I think if they can kind of demonstrate that there are alien races or other people on this earth and UFOs, that then everyone is going to know they've been lied to. And then they're going to start thinking, well, maybe they lied about other stuff. Of course they do. Totally, right? And then we have a new government, apparently, coming in that essentially lies about everything. And that just can't stand. I mean, I'm talking about not just one government. I mean, you have a range of governments that it's just lies. It's total lies. And that just can't stand. That just can't continue. You can't cover up and lie forever without consequences. You lie about, oh, did you put a new part on that car? I think the suspension was about to fall off. Did you fix that? Oh yeah, we fixed that all right, What about that other thing with the fuel leak on the fuel system? It was dripping on the exhaust pipe. Oh yeah, so then the thing blows up or something. So, lying is not a way to operate something if you want it to be sustainable and succeed and not go into self-destruct mode and then make people insane because you don't know what to believe, or you become a part of the cult. It's more comfortable, than being confused about what to believe. I'm just going to jump in, and join the cult, and then just go bananas. Oh yeah, And all through history, this is exactly what's happened. It's going to be my cult or my clan or my tribe against yours, my team, your team. See, it's turned into teams. my country, my political party, my church. Me, instead of us. But that's important. It's how they maintained slavery and how they maintained the plantation system in Hawaii. They got like people like divide and conquer. They'd get the Portuguese fighting against the Hawaiians, or the resenting the Japanese, and the blacks and whites and Indians and everybody. You know, that's how they, so they don't organize, let's say, and all get together and try to change their lot in life. No, it's better to keep them like agitated and brew like animosity and conflict between groups. And they don't want you to know about UFOs for a bunch of reasons, and I'm not going to go into all the reasons. I might sometime, but I haven't ever spoken out about any of this before because, like I say, people aren't going to believe you, and you're going to be criticized. It sort of detracts from other stuff I do, which is trying to save people's farms, and save the soil, save the land, and people's health. And, it's what we're trying to do. And you start talking about UFOs, and I might lose my pilot license. Well, okay, I'm at the point now I'm retired. I'm not flying. I'm not doing the things that I used to do that require licenses. And, so it really doesn't matter on that level. And people already think I'm a crazy old man anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But the thing of it is, history is going to prove somebody right. I think it'll probably prove me right. That's one thing you'll see about science, and there's always pushback, but then there's always acceptance. It's just like even new beneficial inventions, like computers, home computers. It was pushback. That'll never go. That's bullshit. That's like, yeah, but that's always the way it is. There's going to be that level of pushback and skepticism and resistance and things like that. It's just going to be. It's just human behavior. So, so if you start talking about, well, for one thing, you talk about UFOs, you're going against, like I say, the indoctrination, and that's about impossible. But history, you just have to wait long enough. You just have to wait long enough. And yeah, just wait about 4 or 5 years and then think about what I just said. and you'll go, oh, maybe that old crazy old Faust was right, like he has been for all these years about organics and biological farming and health, using natural supplements and mushroom products and cannabis and everything else. All the things that would have made me, well, so you eventually, if you have enough time, you're proven correct by history. So you can think what you want, but time will tell. So that's enough for now. Probably way too much. But I thought I'd throw it out there. So if you have any questions or comments or better ideas, I'm open to them. Unless they're supernatural religionists. And okay, well then there's a million stories I could tell too. Let's say the Nordic, the Inca, the Zuni, the Mayan. I should go down the list of belief systems. So with their, creation stories, their legends, their myths. Even me, I mean, even my ancestors, Dr. Johann Faust was turned into a kind of a myth. Because he was a Renaissance man, a scientist, a doctor, and innovator, and he got accused of witchcraft, being in league with the devil anyway. Because how could he do all this stuff? You know, he must be. You know, where did he come up with these ideas that work? Oh, sold his soul to the devil. Oh, okay. So that kind of situation. And unfortunately for Dr. Faust, the real Dr. Faust, which is the legendary Dr. Faust, is almost it's really a stretch. Some of the stories about him, things he did, are obviously pretty mythological. But the real guy was actually probably would have been killed, except he was on the court of Maximilian of Austria. And that saved him, you know, just like Luther was saved because he was protected by a powerful baron, you know, in Germany, protected him, kept him from getting killed by the Catholics. So that's sort of what it was with Faust. And they actually, Luther and Faust knew each other. And of course, Luther didn't really approve of Faust. Faust was like, he was outside of the box in terms of theology and religion and a lot of things. And he was a seeker of truth, and that's the whole Faust story. That he wanted knowledge and truth. And that's what he was doing. But then he got caught up with stuff like we all do. And then later, you know, anyway, I'm not going to go into that story. It's a big one. We're talking about UFOs and drones. So we're about ready to be shown who the big boys really are, and maybe what the truth really is, and then maybe it'll seep in. Maybe it'll create such a stir and change that it'll be like the Renaissance, where we go from the Dark Ages to some kind of reasonable, you know, where we try to stop fighting for a while, but we actually had more fighting. But yeah, okay. Renaissance. Well, we need a Renaissance. So let's hope history will tell.